Hi, and welcome to Produce Talks, the CPMA podcast. Once more, we're headed back to the CPMA trade show floor for a visit to the Learning Lounge. When matching career expectations with reality, communication is key. With today's generational shift, discussing changing career priorities is becoming paramount to staff retention. Join us for an open conversation on current professional development expectations from young professionals in the industry and how those expectations align with the vision business leaders have for their employees. On our panel, we have Dorothy Reddick from First Fruits Marketing of Washington, Mike Catalano from Wonderful Sales, Larry McIntosh from Peak of the Market, and Colleen Goto from Fresh Point, Vancouver. Moderating the panel is Davis Young from Fresh Direct Produce. Here we go.
We have four speakers today, and I'll let them introduce yourself, starting with Larry on the other side.
Good afternoon, Larry McIntosh, Peak of the Market out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, as you can probably tell by the jersey. But
I'm Colleen Goto. I'm with Fresh Point, Vancouver. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing.
I am Mike Catalano with Wonderful Sales Canada, Director of Sales.
I'm Dorothy Reddick with First Fruits Marketing. I sell apples and pears and cherries out of Yakima, Washington.
And I'm Davis Young, your moderator today with Fresh Direct Produce, also sitting on the board of directors of CPMA. So I'll get right into it. Larry and Colin, maybe start with you, the more experienced half of the panel. Let us know when if early in your career, when you are starting up, some of the opportunities, what's been kind of given to you, but what are some of the things that you wish that were there when you were starting up with your career?
Colleen, go ahead. I think you're the youngest of the older people here.
I don't know about this. Oh, yeah.
I know what I mean.
Davis Googled every word that he could think of to make not older sound really bad. So we're going to be experienced. We're going to be, seasoned, all of those kinds of words, but really it just means old. So I started in this business 26 years ago, and it was my summer job. And I didn't know anything about produce. And you have to remember, so 26 years ago compared to these two over here, there's no Google. I remember I had a cell phone and I thought I was all that in a bag of chips because I had a cell phone. It was this big, and it weighed like, I think, 15 pounds. So that was something. I mean, I think the amount of information that's available now and instantaneously is so amazing on the one hand. On the other hand, when your consumer is so well versed on every product and wants to know where everything is because they watch Food Network or they Google this or they follow somebody's blog or whatever, it becomes a challenge to always stay ahead of the curve. It's a double-edged sword on the communication, but I think that's the one thing I really would have liked is a little bit more where I could find that information out quicker, getting those things and knowing those kinds of things much quicker. That's for me from when I started.
About 25 years ago, I guess. And I remember I'm not from the produce industry. I knew nothing about produce, barely ate produce at that time, to be honest with you. So when I was looking at joining Peak of the Market, I went to the library. I think they still have those. Library to look up information because it wasn't available on the internet at that time. So the industry was brand new to me. But what the growers that we work with wanted was people with positive attitudes. They wanted people that weren't worried about the weather all the time, that were enthusiastic about whatever they did. That's how I got involved in the produce industry. You know, it would have been nice to be able to have some programs that the internet we could have looked up or some courses it could have taken and got into it in a different way, but that wasn't available at the time. So you're kind of thrown into it, but it's a fabulous industry to be in. Quite enjoy it.
Great. I just didn't realize I actually have more experience than Larry. You're 25 years? 26 years here, so, you know.
Competitive.
Well, anyway, I'm going to move to Michael and Dorothy here. But before I start, I want to congratulate Michael. He just won a Young Leadership Award this morning, under 40. So great job. So maybe you can both speak about relatively early in your career. What are some of the challenges that when you're, kind of developing your career, things that you wish that, were there for you and how are you overcoming that?
Like these guys, I came from a world that wasn't involved with produce, but I had the desire to be in it. So starting at a level that from knowing nothing and participating in every conference call, seminar, meeting, even if it had nothing to do with maybe a project I was working on, just to get knowledge or terms or information. And it's interesting how at the time maybe you don't think that it applies to anything you're doing, or, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. Down the road, all right, I sat in on that seminar about how to grow Honeycrisp apples. And years later, that little tidbit that I learned from that is something I'm using. So I guess maybe just saying, keeping open to new learning opportunities and making sure that you're challenging yourself to take them.
In my case, the challenge was balancing doing my current job well and trying to network within this industry, because they're equally important. So if you focus just on the networking and trying to get out there and training and events like this, and you don't do your current job well, you have no future at your company. Likewise, if all you ever do is focus on your current job that you're in right now and don't get out there and get involved, you won't have a voice in this industry. So I would say the challenge for me was figuring out what the right balance and time dedication was between the two, coupled with being younger and having a young family, making sure if I give 100% at work, I can give 100% at home.
So we'll go back to Larry and Colin. Just with your senior leadership role in your company, when you hire a potential candidate or looking at a potential candidate, do you consider more just the skills or the attitudes? And are you more high on attitude and thinking about you can develop those skills by training, or what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I can say that's an easy one for me. It's 100% about attitude. So, I mean, when we hired our new chief financial officer, yeah, she had to have the papers for accounting, et cetera, right? I get that part of it. But actually, in our help wanted ads, when we run them, which isn't all that often because we don't lose many people, it's about if you have a great attitude. And if you have produce experience, that's a benefit. But it's about coming in with an attitude and wanting to learn, and getting in this industry is more important than anything else that we do when we're looking for hirings.
For me as well, this was my summer job, as I was saying, when I was going to university. I have a degree in international relations, poli-sci, and Japanese economic policy. Nothing to do with this at all. I didn't, like Larry said about him, is I hardly ate produce. I remember coming to the interview saying, well, I think I can tell you the difference between an apple and a banana. I'm pretty sure I can do that. But I did come with a lot of enthusiasm. I did come with a lot of what Dorothy was saying, which was, even if it wasn't something that I thought maybe was something I needed to do, I grated potatoes. I grated blackberries with a pair of chopsticks. I did all of these things because I really wanted to learn about something I didn't know. So for me, it's all about the attitude. We can teach you everything else. We can train you for those things. But if you don't have that attitude that you want to learn and you want to grow, it doesn't matter what it is. And it doesn't matter if it's in this industry or anything else. It's all about wanting to learn and having that, going into it with an open mind and taking everything in that you can.
Michael and Dorothy, when you look for a position or a company, how important it is for the company that provide professional development or actually believe in learning and development? Was it a consideration when you applied for your current job? I won't tell your boss, but or moving forward, how important it is? I think people want to hear about that, in terms of how much we should put into development in the company.
Sure. For me, it was very important, but I asked questions two ways. One was, what formal training do you have, and what access do you give to senior leaders and events and opportunities? The formal training, I didn't come from produce, so I needed to understand, what are our products, how do they work, how do we sell them, so that I felt confident in what I could do. The second piece to that is, do you give access to senior leaders? The only way I'm going to grow is by having opportunities to interact with our presidents, our VPs, understand how they do stuff. I take pride in sitting back and shutting my mouth and watching when my boss talks, because he's really smart and I see him get out of tough situations. Knowing I could get the formal training but have access to those people, that was critical to me. If it was, we want you to stay in Canada and don't worry how we do it in LA with the mothership, I would have never joined Wonderful. I'm glad I did, but to me, that was a very, very important question.
So yeah, for myself, I started with the company. I didn't have the experience I needed to be where I am now. I didn't have the experience with the product. I didn't have what they felt I needed. So I took a job that was very entry level, and learned everything I could and was able to work my way up. And had I not taken that risk and said, I took a pay cut. I wanted to work there. I knew it's what I wanted to do. And then it allowed me to actually kind of do the job before I got it, make sure that it was something I wanted to do. I could start talking with customers, make sure I'm comfortable in that role and learning about the product and being confident in what I'm selling. And then when that opportunity came, that customer came available, I said I want it. And I was ready for it before I got the job. I was doing the job before I got it, which, maybe I would have gotten into it and decided it wasn't something I was interested in. Not if I wouldn't have taken that chance and gotten to learn about it, I might have missed this opportunity.
So we know a lot of companies provide formal training and define type of things that you need to know. But what things have you guys actually done on your own that trying to develop yourself and learn that you think is helpful for our industry? Each one of you might have a different experience. I just want to kind of hear more from my personal benefit. How do you learn? How do you learn to learn, right? What do you do? If I can just throw it up there, panel open, whoever want to take the mic first.
Things that I do, and it's very, my friends all think it's really wacky, is no matter where I go on a trip, I always make going to the grocery store one of my stops. It's kind of like a little bit like Disneyland for me. When I'm in LA or when I'm Japanese, when I went to Japan last year, I always make a point of going to the grocery store. I always make a point of going into the produce section, and I like to see how things are displayed. I like to do all of those things. So they have a really great store. If any of you are ever in Dallas, Texas, make it a point of going, called Central Market. It is unbelievable going there. Unbelievable how the produce department, they make you walk through like this. And they have so much stuff in there. It's just, and how they display it and everything is phenomenal. So for me, that's one of the things that I really like to do. And it's weird. And I take my camera and I take my phone and I take pictures. But it's really one of those things that I really feel works for me. And then I come back and say, guess what I saw? And then I have the picture.
Sure, I'll go next. I'm a career learner, and I try and weasel my way into anything I can possibly get to, whether it's CPMA committees, whether it's at work. The way I learn is by watching and seeing and then doing after. So I try and get myself into meetings with my boss, other VPs in our companies, different industry events, because I love seeing the way people interact, the way they view things. I'm not arrogant to think I know how to do it or I have the answers, but when I watch the way other people do things, it really helps round out kind of the formal training that I get at work. I try and weasel my way into everything, and some meetings I don't come away with all that much, and some it completely just blows me away on how some people handle themselves, and I try and emulate that later on.
Looking for things that you could be a part of. So they're not always going to come, my supervisor aren't always going to come to me and say, hey, there's this opportunity out there. For example, I participated in the Passion for Produce program. I see some of you guys over there. But that wasn't them coming to me. That was me saying, hey, here's this program I would love to be a part of. And presenting it to my supervisors and asking to be part of it. So keeping my eyes open for things that you can participate in that are going to help you grow and develop and advance your network. I think always keeping your eyes open and not just waiting for things to come to you.
I, too, would be the grocery store person in every single town, in every single country. When I first got into the industry, my daughter was 1 or 2. She was pretty young. And I always remember I'd take her in the car every weekend and we go through grocery stores. And true story, my daughter's first word was rutabaga. So much to my ex-wife's dismay. But it's events like this. It's coming to CPMA or any of the produce shows, but especially CPMA, where it's social. You can walk up to anybody. You can ask anybody questions. Bethany, one of our new talents that's participating in the Passion for Produce program, she's from cheese and meat industry. She goes on about she's never seen an industry like this where they share, where we all share ideas, where we all talk. And that's really what it's about. This is what developed my career, is right here, these kind of events.
Great. I can validate all they're saying. Michael and I were in an education committee. He put up his hand and then he organized a event that was like over 100 people turned out the other night. Dorothy was in a Passion for Produce program, and I was one of the mentors. She asked a lot of questions. Some people just got behind watching, and she's the one in front and asking. And Colin and Larry working with them for many years alongside, and we're neighbors on the street, but always very engaged. So definitely I appreciate that. Like, to me, I learned something. I hope you take away something. Maybe on the leadership side too, Larry and Colin, with the business, like a lot of our team or some of the younger team members, they had goals that are slightly different than the organization goals. Like, how do you do to try to align the two in terms of what you feel the business needs to achieve versus their personal goals sometimes could be different, or what do you do to deal with that?
I'm going to say when we're bringing someone new to the team, we spend a lot of time and energy making sure from my point of view, it's values, right? And it's over. Can you look yourself in the mirror with what you're doing? What are your ethics? It's all those things before you get into the business. If we share those, the rest of it will seem to work out. So really quickly, we're hiring a new co-worker. They will have an interview with whoever's in charge of that department. They get to a final interview. They'll have an interview with me and that person, that he or she in that department. But then what we do is if they make it to the finalists, if you want to call it that, we invite them to come to our building, wander around, talk to anybody about anything, ask any question. We ask them to do two things. One is talk to whoever you want, but we don't want to know what anybody said. And I encourage our coworkers to say the good, the bad, and the ugly about the company. So the theory being that they spend time there wandering around talking to people without us knowing what anybody's saying. You know what you're walking into. You know what the work-life balance is. You know what the company attitude is. Our website says great things, right? But what is it like really when they get there? And the neat thing about it is we have people that come for an hour because they're not overly comfortable. We've had people stay for 9 hours in our building and wander around, ask questions, and they come back with questions about what's this about, what's that about, but they know what they're walking into and the value and the work-life balance, which we think is pretty good. We've kind of, beyond myself, my work-life balance is pretty good because my wife's Shelley and we work together. We're always together. So I don't have to worry about being home late or anything because we're good.
For the company that I work for, we have a lot of long-time employees. We have long-tenured people. You know, even at 26 years, I'm kind of not even anywhere near what most people are in our business. So for us, when we bring in new people in, they look and they think to yourselves, oh, we kind of have a little bit of a built-in thing because they're like, wow, this must be a really great company. These people have stayed here for this long. They obviously are treated well, all of those kinds of things. But I think when people's attitudes are good, even with their personal goals, there's a way of achieving both at all times. You just have to be I had a person yesterday in the speed mentoring saying, you know, my goal was to do this and then, you know, to have enough money to put a down payment on a house. He goes, and now I'm 10 years down the road and I always wanted to have my own business, but now I have a young family. I don't know if that's what it is. You know, I said, you know, your dreams, your goals are all going to change all the time. The more experience that you get, the more things that you're exposed to, they're always going to change. Don't feel like that your 10-year plan is in cement and it can't be changed because life circumstances come up. And I said, and maybe now you're comfortable being a GM or you're comfortable being something, but just always look at what your values are, what your personal goals are, and see if they still fit, because they may not. You never know. After years of being in this business, there were some things that I thought I wanted to do and everything, and I found, maybe not. Maybe that's not where I want to go. So I just say, you know, always be aware that everyone has personal goals, but with those personal goals, they change.
Dorothy again, I just self-serving. What's important to you? Like, what are your goals? Like, what is important in a company in terms of the values or culture that you look for? Whether it's in an existing company or there's something that you wanted to create in an environment that you work with. 2 or 3 things. You don't have to be politically correct. Speak from your heart. I would like to hear because a lot of team members like you, I want to understand, what do you want? Like what makes you happy?
So for me, integrity is big. I work for a wonderful company. I'm proud to sell their products. And I think all of us in the produce industry should be proud of what we are selling. I mean, it's healthy and good for people. So at the end of the day, I want to do a good job and do the best I can. And I'm also proud about what I'm selling. So it helps me feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, I know fresh fruit integrity is big. What about more on a personal besides the integrity? Like, and what drive to keep going that you stay in the company, continue to grow with that company?
Okay, I see. So for me, where I'm at now, I'm selling things. So given the opportunities to come to places like this and maybe develop a new customer, and that inspires me, you know, meeting someone new. In the produce industry, people move around a lot. So, you know, you never know who your next customer might be. So, you know, smiling, being polite, friendly, shaking hands, making eye contact, just really simple, basic things to remember all the time, because you never know, next year that might be the person that's calling you to buy your product. So for me, just, you know, having pride in maintaining integrity and acting that way, so I know wherever I go and whatever I do, whatever situation I'm in, I'm not going to look back and say, oh, I didn't like how I carried myself at that after hours party. So, make that aware of that tonight. So yeah, for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For me, I want to sell products I believe in. So I want to believe in what we're selling. Because if I don't believe in it, I'm not going to sell it well. And at the end of the day, then who cares? I want a company that's going to develop me and give me opportunities. I need to be challenged. If I get bored at my job, then I'm playing Angry Birds on my phone. I hate my life. It's a complete waste. So I need to be challenged every day. The last one is I need a company that respects the work-life harmony. I think balance implies sometimes a 50-50, and that's never going to happen. Not with what we do and how we have to travel. But a company that respects that if I want to spend an hour with my daughter in the morning to get her off to, my in-laws who are going to take care of her for the day, they respect that. And they know I'm going to give 100% at work. And when you've got those three things, that's when I know I can succeed and do really well. I'm lucky that I have that today. I haven't always had that. And I've left companies because one of those three things was right out of whack.
Yeah, no problem. So I just want to make sure give the chance for the audience. If you got any questions you want to ask, I do have one more for the panel, but we'll go to the audience first. Just anyone have any questions for any of the wonderful speakers today or the panelists?
So the question I want to ask, I thought it was really interesting that Larry and Colleen both talked about attitude. And so I think anybody that's now or in the future knows they'll look for employees at some point. I'm really curious as to how you assess and understand what the attitude is of these, because you've just met them. How do you say, oh yeah, this one has the right attitude or this one doesn't? What do you look for?
I've had people who spent the whole time in an interview or whatever looking at the table and never looked up once, or only looked up when I said, okay, well, that's great, and then went. It's a funny little thing, but it is. And then just sort of what they when you ask them certain questions, I always ask, so, what made you apply to this job, or or something like that, or what did you like about your past job or didn't like? And from their answers, generally, I can get a taste of whether or not their attitude is there to learn, their attitude is there to work, those kinds of things. But eye contact to me is the first thing, and it's a lost art. I'm sorry for the young millennials in here, lost art for a lot of millennials. They're so used to being on their phone. It's really hard for them to look up and look you in the eye. And that's a really big thing for me.
For me, it'd be totally different. I go a bit of a gut instinct, but I will say a couple of my best coworkers had the worst resumes and were horrible interviews. But you have a feeling about them. So when I was talking earlier about letting them wander around the building, when someone spends time in your building for whatever number of hours, 4 hours, whatever they want, they become more comfortable. They become more themselves. So after they do the tour and questions, ask if they have any questions they want to bring up and you get to feel for whether they're going to be that person or not, right? They're becoming more themselves. I know when I was going in for interviews, when I was between jobs, I was trying to be that professional, person. I didn't get any of those jobs. When I applied at peak in the market, I was myself because I thought I had no hope of getting the job, right? And that's what got me the job, is because I was, friendly, outgoing, and I had a positive attitude. So I kind of assess it differently, and you probably have a lot more experience at it than I do, but I think people become themselves either way when given time.
I had a follow-up questions for everyone, but maybe from a different perspective. I'll start with maybe Michael and Dorothy here. Each company wanted to provide training and development, but the reality is there's budget, there's limited time and resources, right? So I'll leave that part to Larry and Colin to share their thoughts. But what do you think a company should be obligated, or I wouldn't say maybe not obligated, but how much companies should be doing to drive that training and development? How much do you think is more coming from the staff, their own personal development, and reaching out and looking for resources to support their learning and development themselves, or from your own experience?
In my opinion, the company owns setting the culture. They've got to set kind of the fabric of their DNA on what they're going to value and how they're going to invest in their people. How an employee leverages that is up to them. I mean, you can only give so much formal training. I think you've got to create the right attitude where someone feels they can come in and get the training they need, but at the same time, they can bring their own passion to work and seek out opportunities. That would probably be my answer, Davis. I think it's a bit of a mix.
I would think so too. I think it's a lot of, self-motivation. If the opportunities are put there, the people can't be maybe forced to do them. They would need to do them on their own. I guess maybe I mean within yourself being motivated to seek those things out. If you don't see them readily in front of you, asking. So maybe researching what the CPMA has to offer and what you could get involved with there, or different organizations that you can be a part of. Just for me, I find that I get a lot of benefit out of maybe in that little bit of downtime researching something on my own that had nothing to do with what my employer was, and seeking it out and becoming a part of something new.
If I can add to that, I think companies set a formal budget for training, and I've done training budgets myself, and you set them and you're like, okay, we can only send so many people to so many events. The other part of that is, what are you doing every day to make sure that these people can pursue their passion, and you're creating opportunities where they can learn informally? And if that's part of your DNA and fabric, people will pursue their passions and they'll do a better job because they're focused on what they are truly passionate about. It's the best learning. My father keeps trying to teach me how to do repairs at our townhouses, and I have no passion and I'm terrible at it. But I love reading about wine, and I learn a whole bunch about it. And it just shows a difference where you've got to keep that kind of balance.
From an employer perspective, right, or from a senior manager perspective, like what's the thought around how much the company should provide and versus how much we expect the staff to be self-motivated and coming with their own agenda or training and development plan?
From our perspective, we, like every other company, have a budget line for training and courses and etc. But I find if the person isn't really wanting to do it, forcing them to do it, to the points earlier, there's no point to that. But if someone's enthusiastic and has a course that's not even totally related to what they're doing today, we'll absolutely endorse that. And when you look at training in different ways, we have on-the-job training and where someone helps them. But this event here, this is a fantastic training event for our staff. We've got people that have just joined the company last year that are working with very experienced people, team building, learning things here. This is one of our biggest training things, along with passion for produce, along with the new online things that our people are doing, the produce basics and that. That's all coming together, and that's formalized, but you're going to have to want it. Not everybody wants to take it to that next level, so we leave it up to individuals to drive that.
I think we were probably in the past really horrible about training. It was kind of like we didn't have the time, we didn't have those resources for us as well. I will admit that we were not the greatest at it. We're much better at it now. We provide a lot of formal training, but like Larry was saying, a lot of it is on-the-job training, and you can't also force people to take it. We have a number of things that we have to do for our food safety, all of these things we have to do every single year, and some days you really want to smash your head against the ground. They're so boring, number one, and you think to yourself, God, I did this last year. Really, we have to, and every year we have to do it. But we've gotten now a couple of years of doing this, so we've gotten in a habit. But I also find that for training wise, I lean a lot on my experienced people, my seasoned guys who've been there for a long time, to bring up the next generation. And that's how I look at it as well. I'm really, really involved with all of my people from the warehouse. I run a warehouse as well as doing my job. So I work 2 nights a week, and I do one pre-shift huddle for my drivers where I go at 4:30 in the morning 1 day a week as well, because I want to hear what everybody is doing. So we have a number of people that are new on everything and stuff, and I want to know what's going on because this is a new role for me. But I feel like I need to lean on the people who know the job better than me as well. I can only ask the questions and see what people are lacking in, but the training part, I think, comes from both what they want to learn and then for me to lean on the people who know how to do it better than me.
Great, thank you. And I think I would just sum up in a few words that I think what I heard today is you got to be very driven. You want it yourself to learn, and being uncomfortable. And if the company doesn't provide it, you can ask for it. You can reach out, and you can drive a lot of learning for yourself. So thank you so much, Larry, Colin, Mike, and Dorothy, and I appreciate your insight today. Thank you.
And that's it. That's all that we have for you this month on Produce Talks. I'd like to thank all our guests for being part of our show. Our sponsor, Nature Fresh Farms, your support is very appreciated. And I'd like to thank you for listening. Remember to check out elearning.cpma.ca to find out more about online training available from CPMA. Until next time, remember to seek out new knowledge, build your skills and abilities, and basically, never stop growing.
You operator.